Uh, I would say I am this. I don't say this braggadociously. I am coachable. That's one thing I do know about myself. I'm coachable. When there's a coach in the room telling me what to do, I will listen. That's especially when I have a coach there. If there's not a coach there, though, tough chance. Like that's the line that I draw is if the voice is someone that I have deemed worthy of listening to, then I'm gonna listen. But if it's just somebody like, hey, you know what you should consider? You should try to change this. I'm like, who are you? No, not gonna do that. And that makes me human. That's what that makes me is human. Human. There we go. There's a little leg right there. That's what makes me human. I think all of us do that, right? I mean, we like to listen to advice from people that we think have good advice to give, that have been elevated to an authority position. Sometimes we don't like listening to them, but we feel like there's a need to at least start off with. Um, but other times we think, why do you have a voice? Why do you think that you can tell me what to do? And I get that. I went to Bible college with my wife, and when we got engaged, we decided to go to premarital counseling. And the lady that we went to, she actually worked at the Bible college. She was a psychologist. She went to our church as well, and she was not married. Like she'd been married previously, and I was like, I don't know if that's like, is this I don't know if that's the advice that I want to get. But hindsight, it was so important. It was so valuable to start my most important relationship that I have off on the right foot, and we learned so much, and it really did help us a tremendous amount. So I know I get it. There are times when we look at the person that's giving the advice, we're like, I'm not sure I'm gonna listen to you or not. But often when we look back, we are glad we did, which is why we're in this conversation in this series. You'll be glad you did. Timeless advice for troubled times. I We're not doing this series, let's be clear. We're not doing this series because I finally gained enough knowledge and wisdom to share it with you. I'm like, I've attained a certain level of intelligence where I'm like, okay, I've got some stored up wisdom that it's time for Andrew to dispel to you. No, this is actually other people's advice. It's unoriginal. It's not like I came up with this on my own. This is advice that you've heard your whole entire life. Like you've probably heard from multiple people saying the things that we're going to talk about throughout this series. In hindsight, they're the things that when you listen to it, you look back and you say, I am so glad that I did. I'm so glad that I listened to my marriage counselor through premarital. It was so helpful and enlightening and just got us started correctly. Or you might look back and think, you know what? I heard it. They told me multiple times, thanks, Mom. Um, and I wish that I had. Or maybe you flip it around and say, I was so glad that I didn't. Or I wish that I hadn't. I wish I hadn't done that. I wish I hadn't said that. I knew better. I was taught better. People told me, and I just didn't listen to their advice. It's not necessarily rules that we're talking about, it's advice. And here's my promise to you. If you take the advice that we're going to be talking about through the next several weeks and you put it to action, not just listen to it and be like, oh, that's a good one. I'll think about that at some point. But if you actually put it to action and you start to allow it to influence your behavior, then I promise you this, that it will keep you from breaking the rules. It's not rules that we're talking about, but it will keep you from breaking the rules. The rules that if you break will eventually break you. The rules that if you break will break the relationships that you love and you care about. The rules that if you break, maybe it won't allow you to break your bank account, right? We're going to talk about money in a couple weeks, but these are the things that we're talking about. It's not necessarily right versus wrong. It's not legal versus illegal, moral versus immoral. It is wisdom, ultimately. It is, and this is what we're talking about, wisdom. Insights informed by the knowledge that life is connected. That what I do today informs my tomorrow. That the action, the behavior, my choices, my decisions that I make right now in this season of life set the stage for the next season of life. There's a normal question that I think everybody asks at every single step along the way. And it's, what do I do? What do I do now? What do I do in this time? What's the good choice for me? What's the right step for me to take? I think a better question than just what do I want to do right now, because most of the time when we ask that question, we think, what do I do? Well, what do I want to do? And we do what we want to do in this moment. I think a better question than that is what is going to move me closer to the end goal that I want to have. So whether it be your physical health, financial health, relational health, whatever it might be, spiritual health, when we have a picture in mind, a vision for our life, so to speak, where you want some goals to be attained and achieved, you have to be able to figure out, well, is this next step going to get me closer to those goals or further away? Is this going to help bridge that gap, or is this going to actually become a hurdle down the road? What is this going to be helpful or not? I was talking to our financial advisor recently, and I need a financial advisor, not because I'm bad with money, but because I don't have a lot of it. So it's like every last penny is like, this one has to matter. This one counts. I didn't get into becoming a pastor because of the pay. Let's just put it that way. That is not the strategic move. But I was talking to him, and he's like, "Yo, you guys are doing pretty good, and you're making good choices, and that's starting to pay off, this far down the road, which is great. It makes me feel wonderful about the discipline that we've been utilizing in our financial decisions." And I started to ask him about, some ideas, and I thought, this would be great to have him come in because I think he's super knowledgeable, super friendly, and actually do like a one-time, evening thing where he could talk to some people that might need some help with finances if you have questions. So we don't have anything set up, but he's like, yeah, I'll do that. Um, but when I asked him, what are some of the difficulties? What are the things that you see often that become a hurdle for people in their financial health? What are the handcuffs? And he says, I'll tell you my pet peeve. I go, my biggest pet peeve is the vehicle. He goes, it's always the vehicle. It's a horrible investment. The moment that you purchase, the value goes down. You're losing money every single day. There are thousands of vehicles that do the exact same thing. And on that level financially, to make the choice, it's a choice that's going to handcuff you. Every single month, that payment comes out. It's like, wish I had that money back. I've talked to so many people, and this is him speaking, not me. I tend to agree with him. But I talk to so many people, this is me talking now, that want to be more generous, but are not able to be more generous. The choices, the decisions, the life, season that they're in has handcuffed them to being able to be the type of person that they want to be. And I always just say, you know what? Be generous with what you have. It's not about the volume or the amount. It's the heart issue. Choosing to be generous is a mentality, not a dollar amount. However, I get it. When we make choices, there's repercussions down the road. This isn't even the money talk, by the way. We'll get into that later. Today, we're talking about something else. Today, we're going to talk about a lesson that every single parent wants their child to learn. We want to make sure that our kids get this. And unfortunately, we get to a point where in our life where we think, I think that was good enough. Like that's for my kids, seems like they've got it. They can keep working on it. I'm kind of graduated beyond that. That's like a smaller, younger person thing to figure out. But our advice, our you'll be glad you did advice for today is primarily this. Listen. How many times we say this as parents? Listen. Hey, listen. Listen. Listen, Linda. We say this when we want our child or the person we're trying to talk to listen to us. And it's never about a good thing. It's never about a positive thing because we don't have to work at all for them to hear about that. Like Luke doesn't even need to hear me say anything about cookies. He just needs to hear the package open. He's like immediately there. I don't even need to invite him. He's like, yep, I'm in. Same with my dog, right? When we say listen up, it's something that may be difficult to hear, but it's something that's important to hear. Right? We don't say this when it's easy. How many times do I have to tell you? Eat more. There we go. Eat more. We don't for me, I don't, no one has to tell me to eat more twice. Like, it's like, oh, okay, I'm in. No one has to tell me to sleep more. You mean like naps? Okay, I can make that work somehow. Yeah, just lease it. Don't worry about just lease it. Yeah, just put it on the credit card. Just charge it. That'll work. That's great. Yeah, you should. It's beneficial for you. You should definitely build your credit through a lot of debt. That's good. Uh, no, you totally should move in together. Yeah, it's been. How long have you been dating? 2 weeks. Great, perfect. You need to know each other at a different level. So definitely move in together. You should definitely hide it. No, no, no. Don't take responsibility. Blame them. Right? We don't have to have someone say, "Hey, listen up. You me. Make sure that you blame everybody else. Don't take responsibility on your own." We do that naturally. No, no, no. Don't apologize. Right? These are things that no one has to tell us to do. We do these on our own. The difficult part is when someone has to tell us and remind us, hey, there's something really important on the other side of this that if you implement it, your life is going to be better, but it's going to cost you something in the meantime. It's not natural to do this. It's difficult. It takes discipline. The challenge is to pause our rebuttal, our natural knee-jerk reaction response to deny and argue, to actually unfold our arms, to listen to what they're telling us. And it's this thing that, I don't know if you're aware of it, what it's called. It's called maturity. And it's amazing when it shows up in our life and in the people's lives that we love. Because maturity ignores peer pressure. Someone that's mature doesn't dictate their life by what somebody else is chirping at them about, right? It helps you swallow your pride. Maturity helps you swallow your pride and make sure that you're choosing to live your life with humility. You know, maturity is how you create a story that you love to tell. Like the one that you're not prideful, but you're proud of the choices that you've made. That you knew that when you're up against it and you made great choices for you and for your family. And when someone says, what did you do there? You're like, I love this story. I get to tell you the thing because I did it right. I did it correctly. And it was difficult, but it was so worth it. What's natural is to do this. Yeah, I'll listen when it's what I want to hear. I'll listen when your advice lines up with what I want to do anyway. Then I'll listen. Right? It's like a music major, and they don't listen to Bach or Beethoven. They don't learn like music theory because it's boring to them. It's difficult. They're like, I'm not going to do all that. I just really like country music. Now, there's nothing wrong with country music. But in order to grow, in order to advance and move forward in that industry and in just your knowledge and ability to grow there, you have to start listening to things that you may not naturally want to listen to. And this is equally, if not more true, when it comes to advice for life. Refusing to listen to what we don't want to hear, that we need to hear, is a gateway decision. As a mouthful. Refusing to listen to what we don't want to hear, that we need to hear, is a gateway decision. You might think back in your life about like moments that you didn't listen, moments that someone told you, your parents were like, hey, you should do this thing. You're like, I'm not going to do that. And you didn't listen. You're like, well, I didn't get hurt. I didn't get in trouble in the moments that I didn't listen. But if you follow the train of thought, right, this is a gateway decision. If you follow that down the road a little ways, maybe not that day, but maybe a week from there or a month from there or 6 months from there, eventually you made a decision based on that decision to not listen. And it's the decision that you wish you could undo the most. It led to your greatest regret, the one that you're still dealing with the repercussions today. In fact, the scar that gave you is one that you will bear for the rest of your life. You're still carrying that luggage with you everywhere that you go. So what listening does, listening fights against our future regrets. There we go. Listening fights against our future regrets. And this is not new information. Like if you're here this morning, like, yeah, got it. My mom's told me all the time, like I just need to listen to her more and my life would go better. Like this is not new information. I know. In fact, you've probably been on the other side of this. You've probably told other people, hey, don't do that. Don't go out with him. Like, he's trouble. He's trouble. We've seen it with other friends. Like, he's not a good guy. And then they're like, yeah, but he's so cute. And then they go out with him. And what happens? She gets her heart broken, right? You've told other people, don't quit your job and go like backpacking around Europe. Like, that sounds like fun. Not right now. Like, wait until later in life. But right now, you're like in the middle of it. You need to be saving money, not spending money like that you don't even have. And then they do it anyway. And what happens? They go broke. They start making poor decisions. It puts them in a category that they don't want to be. It hamstrings them. It handcuffs them. Maybe a smaller deal, like, someone that says, hey, I really want to go on this trip. I want to go camping with these people, or I want to go on to that music festival. And they're like, well, music festival sounds like fun. And then you start to talk about what they're actually going to do. You're like, I don't know. That sounds like maybe not a good context to find yourself in. And they're like, no, but it's going to be super fun. And then they go, and what happens? They prove you smarter than you even realized that you were. That's what they do. And this is the reality, is that from the outside looking in, it is so clear. There you go. From the outside looking in, it is so clear. It's easy. I mean, it's like looking through a window, right? From the outside looking in, there's nothing murky. It's like, it's obvious. Yeah, do that, don't do that. I don't know what your problem is. When you're on the other side, it's just clouds. It's just fog. Like, yeah, but I think I might want to. And they're like, no, don't do that. But I might want to. Really? Whatever I tell you this morning, whatever we talk about this morning, someone's already going to have told you this. And this morning as we talk, and I might not get even to like the very specific pinpoint thing that you're wrestling with, but if you have an area when we're talking, it starts to lean in that direction and it gets uncomfortable. It starts to add a little bit of extra pressure. You might feel convicted about something. If you start feeling convicted, I just give you a heads up. It's not because I had this big, huge prayer moment last night with God and he was like, you need to say this because this person's going to be there and you need to get them. It's because the Holy Spirit is at work in you. And if you're a Jesus follower, we start feeling that thing and we realize that is God's Spirit actually pushing a little bit, just trying to nudge us a little bit because what we're talking about is important for what might be coming next and we don't see it. But the Holy Spirit is trying to lead us and guide us. And that uncomfortable thing is something that we need to pay attention to. If you can pause, if you can stop arguing, stop defending, and just listen, I promise you'll be glad that you did. And if it's a friend that keeps saying this, or if it's a roommate that keeps saying this to you, or God forbid, your mom, a spouse, they keep saying the same thing over and over, they may see something that you don't. They may see it from a different angle. And here's the thing that you have to consider. Someone that cares about you enough to risk relationship in order to remind you what's valuable and important, even if it's uncomfortable, is something that you need to listen to. Someone that is willing to risk their friendship with you. If you don't agree, if you blow up about it, they're like, yeah, I'm still going to say it. Why? Because they care enough about you that this is a health concern for you. You should listen. We should pay attention to the tension. Whatever the tension is, pay attention to the tension. And the reason why we pay attention to the tension is because that tension is tethered to something. That tension is tethered somewhere in our soul, in our heart. There is something that tension is connected to. What is it really about? Ask yourself this question. Why do I push back so hard on whatever it is? We're going to talk about King David's son. The amazing thing about King David, he was the second king of Israel. He's probably the most well-known king of Israel, arguably the best and greatest leader that Israel's ever had. He was this warrior poet. I mean, just, he did everything. He killed people and he wrote poems about it. It was amazing. Um, but David had this vision for what Israel could be and what it could become, what the kingdom needed to be like. And he wanted there to be a temple. But God and kind of some leaders around him said, you don't need to do that. That needs to be the person that doesn't have blood on their hands. And so he tried to set his son that was going to take over up for success. And as a parent, I totally get this. I want to set my son up for success as much as I possibly can. I want to allow him to learn the lessons that are important and necessary that he is successful as an adult. Not that I'm just going to make the way and super easy for him, but I'm going to try to build the direction, build the journey for him, and allow him to experience some things that he grows into his highest and greatest potential possible. And that's exactly what David did with his son, whose name is Solomon. So David's son, Solomon. Solomon is a fascinating, interesting guy. He was about 20 years old when he first took the throne and became the king. So not super old. And the amazing thing about Solomon is he started off at a young age already very wise. He was wise enough to recognize that he didn't know what he didn't know. Like there's a lot of information and experience about learning how to run a kingdom, I would imagine. I've never done it, but I would imagine there's a lot of information that you would need to know. And probably what he's experienced with his dad, watching his dad, obviously, David, warrior, poet, like that's a different angle, that's a different style of leader than Solomon was going to be. It was a different task, a different calling on his life, what he needed to do for the nation. So he comes at this looking like, I don't have the information that I need. I know I don't know something, but I just don't know what that something is. So he was wise enough to know that, but he's also humble enough to ask for help. One of the first things that he does is not necessarily ask people. He does ask people, but he also asks God, which I think is a great move for anyone. So 1 Kings chapter 3, verse 7 is one of his recorded prayers. Now, Lord my God, you have made your servant king in place of my father David. But I am only a little child and do not know how to carry out my duties. I love his perspective in all of this. I love how he sees himself in all this. I love his posture in this, where he comes at it from, I am your servant. It's humble. I am a little child. How many 20-year-olds that just got handed the keys to the kingdom literally are going to be humble? I mean, they're going to want to take it out for a ride. Let's see how fast this puppy will go. Like that's the typical mentality. But he has a different angle. He's got a different perspective on this. The posture. He continues on verse 9. So give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong. For who is able to govern this great people of yours? Again, notice the language. It's God's people. Right? He asks not for more power, not for more influence, not for more money. He asks for a discerning heart in order to govern. He's like, hey, give me the right heart in order to govern, because this is my heart, that I would serve your people even better. Distinguish between right and wrong. Right? This is his idea. And as he's praying this, how do you think God is going to respond? As a good father. Right? In verse 10, does it look like this? God spoke to Solomon and told him, that is what the written rules are for. Just look at the written rules. You just do those. Don't ask me again. They're all written down. That's not what he said. That's not real. Sorry, fake out. No, in chapter 4:29, God gave Solomon wisdom and very great insight and a breadth of understanding as measureless as the sand on the seashore. I mean, he's arguably the wisest man to ever live. Water follows the path of least resistance. Like when I'm trying to go scout out for a fishing trip and I see like the river take a turn, but I don't know why it took a turn. And I get there and I look and there's this massive rock. It's like, oh, least resistance. It needed to turn right there. It couldn't go forward. Water follows the path of least resistance. So does wisdom. And humility is what blazes the trail for wisdom to follow. Right? When you walk through life with humility, it allows wisdom to find you. It allows you to be receptive to even receive it. Pride resists. Pride says, "No, I've got this. Nah, I don't need any help. No, I don't need your advice. No, I don't need any more information. I got this. I'm good." Humility says, "I don't know what I don't know. I would love to hear more about that." And Solomon's decision to pray this way, to ask for that, and then God's response in giving him even more wisdom, as measureless as the sand on the seashore, it led to something more than what Solomon asked for. In verse 31, chapter 4, his fame spread to all the surrounding nations. As a young man, he was so wise that the wisdom that he possessed is what made him famous to all the surrounding nations. Like, wow, there's a 20-year-old over there that's just incredibly wise. I wanted to say killing it, but that's more of a David thing. But he sought out wisdom. Fame followed. Right? How many of us, we want the fame first? It's like, I want to be a big deal. I want the corner office. I want what I'm owed. Like, I want to be a big deal. I want all the followers on social media. You're like, well, how many posts are you making? What is your content about? You're like, yeah, we'll figure that out later. I just want a lot of people. Right? Solomon didn't seek out fame. He sought out wisdom, and fame ended up following. There's probably a pattern there. Solomon was gifted, like I said, with not just regular wisdom, natural wisdom, with supernatural wisdom from God. And what's fascinating, what's amazing about Solomon, he's gifted with more wisdom than anybody else. He wrote more about seeking advice, not having advice, but seeking advice, than any other ancient or biblical author. So the wisest man ever asked for more wisdom from other people. Right? Isn't that fascinating? Because that's the wise thing to do. Not to feel like you've got it there, like you're enough. Like, no, I'm good enough right here. I've got all the wisdom I need. He had so much wisdom, there was a hunger and thirst for more, to gain more wisdom and insight, because he knew that that would make him a better leader for the people, not for himself, but for this nation that he was trying to run, trying to lead. He's the guy that wrote Proverbs. We're going to go through a bunch of those. Instruct the wise, and they will be wiser still. That's Solomon. He's writing that from personal experience. That's not just like, hey, here's a good idea. No, he lived this out. Another one, chapter 1, verse 5. A wise man will hear an increase in learning, and a man of understanding will acquire wise counsel. See, wise people, they don't wait for wisdom to come and find them, hoping like, I'm just going to post up here for a while and hopefully wisdom comes and interacts with me. They seek it out. They pursue it. They go ask for it. And when it comes to input from the outside, this mentality comes into place. Right? When we don't want it is when we need it. When we don't want it the most, when we're resistant to it the most, is the moment that we actually need that advice. We need that insight. Another one of his Proverbs. The way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but a person who listens to advice is wise. We've seen that play out. Maybe in your own life, maybe in your parents' life, your children's life, your friend's life, your co-worker's life. You've talked to them, you're like, that's not a good choice. They're like, no, it's a great choice. It's not just good, it's great. And you're looking at it going, I don't think it is. For them, in their own sight, it was good. And yet the end result, later on down the road, they paid the price for it. Right? And if you're sitting here this morning and you're thinking about a list of people, you're like, there's a whole bunch of people that need to hear this message because they're not listening to me. I've been telling them and telling them and telling them, and they're just not getting it. And if I tell them to listen again, they're just not going to listen more. So they need to listen to this message, and then they'll listen to me maybe. They'll be reminded of what mom and dad have been telling them, or whatever it might be, whoever they might be. If that's where you're at, then you haven't been listening. Because this morning, right now, is for you, not for them. If you are avoiding conversations in your own life, not because they're not listening to you, but because you don't want to hear them say the same thing over again, it's like, come on. This again, I heard it last Christmas and Thanksgiving, and I heard it last Tuesday, and I'm tired of hearing it again. Like, just stop it already. If that's you, and you're resisting advice that's wise counsel, you're masterminding your own future regrets. I'll even add a little selfish note to that as well. Not only are you masterminding your own future regrets, you're also being selfish about it, because your future regrets, your problems in like destructive behaviors and things that you're doing right now that you think, nah, it's just for me though, are affecting those around you as well. The people that you love the most are impacted by your mistakes, your unwise choices and decisions. Solomon also wrote this: plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors, they succeed. Right? It's not about you having the vision on your own, like I'm just going to do my own thing. They fail. You might have some good plans, but if you don't seek advice, it's not going to do as well as if you had sought out advice. Here's a big one for me. And it hurts my heart because I've seen this so many times. Are you making big, life-changing decisions without asking for wisdom? Like those big moments, the pivotal moments, am I going to marry this person or not? Are we going to buy that house or are we not? Am I going to change my career path? Am I actually going to do that? Am I going to purchase that? Are we going to start to have children now? Are you approaching those big decisions and just deciding on your own? If you are, you're limiting the wisdom of others that God is providing you access to. Please, I can't beg you enough. If you're approaching one of those big choices, ask some people. Ask some people. Proverbs 19:20. Listen to advice and accept discipline, and at the end, you'll be counted among the wise. It's not because you make you have the right ideas all the time, but to listen to the advice and actually take it. To listen to the advice and embrace it. Even if it is a little bit of discipline, even if it's a course correction from what you started off with. Discipline isn't fun, and it doesn't care about your feelings. However, discipline allows you to grow. Discipline allows you to take a step. Now, this is really, really obvious and apparent, and I probably don't even need to say it. But I'm going to say it anyway. Shocker, I am not the smartest one in the room. There's not enough laughter. That's true. You're like, no, that's very obvious. We don't need to laugh. I decided early on, rather than fake it till you make it, which is what a lot of people told me. Oh, you just pretend that you have everything under control and it'll all fall in line. Rather than fake it till I make it, I decided a different tactic. I decided to surround it until I've found it. Like, it doesn't even rhyme. It doesn't even work. I try to bring a bunch of people around me that are smarter than me. I try to ask people for help, people that have specific skills and wisdom and insight that I didn't have. And we have a church board that leads Canyon's church. It's not me making the choices. I don't make unilateral decisions. I don't shoot from the hip and then hope like I just ask for forgiveness later. That's not how I work. Because I trust the people that are in the position to steward this organization. They're there for a reason. Not only that, I also have this staff meeting. It's staff, like it's not just our paid staff because that'd be a really small meeting, but it's our staff and our key leaders also. We meet weekly. And we have these big discussions about the direction and how to be more strategic in the choices that we're making. How do we do what we do even better in order for more people to turn towards God? I'm not trying to micromanage in those meetings, in those relationships. I'm not over here like talking to Caleb about, hey, have you thought about playing a power chord there? Does not. That would be foolish. Right? Caleb's got it. I trust him. He's like, no, go do your thing and run with it. I've got support for you. I'm not trying to tell Dell, the nicest person on the planet, how to be good at guest services. She's got it. Trust me. Right? If you've seen the name badges that we wear when we're volunteering, I was in opposition to those. I was like, no, we don't want those. I don't like them. And Dell's like, but I think they'd be really helpful. I'm like, no, that's not. And then she recruited Rayla, and then they double teamed me, and I was like, okay, maybe I should listen. Maybe I should just listen. I know. Now, I get all this, not just because I've worked at a church, but I worked outside of a church as well for a long time beforehand. For over a decade before I even ever became a pastor, I was working elsewhere out in the community, out different jobs. And I've learned something that a lot of you have learned and picked up as well, whether it's in church, outside of church, at home, anytime that there's a leadership position and role, that leaders who refuse to listen will eventually be surrounded by people who have nothing helpful to say. As we wrap up this morning, I've got 4 tips for us regarding how to listen and who to listen to. Tip number 1 is avoid the genetic fallacy. Essentially, that we discredit information that we receive based purely on the source that we get it from. It's like, oh, that was just, whoever. That was just that person. They don't really know what they're talking about. Have you seen the choices that they make? Yeah, don't listen to them. Here's a little secret. People that have made bad choices can give really good advice. Don't buy into the cancel culture. Right? When we see on TV or we hear about something, we hear through, friends of a friend of a friend, and we're like, oh, I'm never going to listen to them again. If there's someone that's made some bad choices, that doesn't mean that they don't have any wisdom. Right? If you're looking to try to find a Christian leader, and you have to have all of your church values and everything on the same page, theologically you have to be perfectly in line, you're going to be searching for the rest of your life. Why? Because you have a very specific, unique perspective. Not everything is going to be in the same exact line. And if we look at Christian leaders or just leaders in general, and just because they've made a mistake before, and we try to cross them off the list like, oh, not going to listen to anything they ever said, that we are actually undercutting. We're undermining the wisdom that is available. Cancel culture lowers the IQ of the entire culture. When we look at someone like, oh, look, they're not perfect anymore, can't listen to them, we're removing the opportunity to learn from them. And that is a mistake. Tip number 2, don't assume expertise in one area makes you an expert in every area. This is kind of the same thing but different, right? It's the opposite of the cancel culture thing. So just because someone's really great in this one avenue, this one arena, they're like, wow, everybody looks and they're like, that person, wow. And then you start listening to that person talk about this category, and this category, and this category. It's like their friends and their life and their marriage and their finances. You're like, no, I didn't really need to hear you say anything about that. Right? Case in point, and I'm not trying to take shots at anybody, but I don't know anybody, so I'm not going to be heard. Like Hollywood or professional athletes, I don't have an axe to grind against them, but just because they have a very specific skill doesn't mean that all of their advice is worth listening to. Okay, tip number 3. Don't confuse experience with insight. I have to tread lightly here. Age doesn't equate to wisdom. Just because you've had more days on the planet doesn't make you wiser. There's a couple ways that you can gain wisdom. One is by evaluating the experiences that you've had. The other is by listening to other experiences that people have. So when you find yourself like, oh, well, they're further down the road than me, they should know better. Don't give people just a blank check like, oh, I'm just going to go with whatever someone else that's further down the road in your mind from me. That's not always good advice. But it's the evaluated experience that matters. That's what makes you wiser. Tip number 4. Listen for, I know. Here's the thing. Knowing, we talked about this last week. Knowing isn't doing. Some of the greatest fools in the history of the world have a tremendous amount of knowledge that they possessed. But they didn't act upon that knowledge. And that makes them foolish. Refusing to listen, like I said earlier, refusing to listen is a gateway decision that ultimately will lead you to regret. It leads you to say things like this: I should have seen that coming. Should have seen it coming. I knew, I was told, they said. Someone probably told you multiple times. Others can see it from a different perspective. It's easy, it's clear for them. We can't. So, in the words of James, the brother of Jesus, be quick to listen, slow to speak, and you will be glad that you did. A couple discussion questions as we close up here. What's the best advice you've taken that you weren't convinced of in the moment? Love that question. Think back on like, hey, that really actually worked out. I wasn't sure it was going to start with. Next question. Who should you have listened to but didn't? I know all the moms are like, at least my mom. She's great. Next one. Is someone trying to get your attention about something right now? There's someone in your world, in your life, and they just keep on like sitting right at that uncomfortable, like that tension point, and they won't move off of it. What are they saying? I'm just going to suggest it might be worth listening to them. Let me pray. We'll get out of here. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for everything that you do for us. We thank you for the people that you bring into our lives. And sometimes you bring a specific person with a specific experience, with very specific insight and wisdom into our life for a life-changing directional shift for us. And it might only just be one conversation that we have with them, but that conversation changes everything. God, I pray that we would have ears to hear, that you would soften our hearts. Because what we're wrestling with, what we feel uncomfortable with, what we feel convicted about, may just be the thing that you're leading us to expand our ceiling, to expand our horizons, to grow our potential even more. And God, I pray, as scary as that might seem, that we would use every ounce of our courage and boldness to take a step towards the wisdom and insight that you are providing and giving to us. And it is in your name that we pray. Amen. Thanks for being here with us. Again, don't forget, Next is in the front room. Love to see you there. Grab a snack. And we'll see you next week for part 3 of You'll Be Glad You Did.